Hey everyone, it's Char from Char's Fascination, and I have a new subscriber. Hello. So, my background in sewing and patterns. I've been sewing since the age of 6, and I was taught by a lot of Freemason ladies that always had their Singer sewing machine or a Sears Kenmore, a metal one like that, basically. Most of them had a Singer. Oh, I love that champagne color one. If I could ever find another one like that, I will be buying it in the cabinet. Now, my new subscriber would like to know, because of my background in fashion design and sewing, how to draft a pattern. So get yourself some grid paper. Now this I got from the Joanne Fabric when I got to go up there one year. Now I figure since I'm gonna draft something, I might as well iron a fabric. Remember to iron your fabric. I don't always do that with all of them. And always make sure that your fabric is washed and dried before you use it. There are some techniques. I have my ironing board right here, which is kind of helpful for me because I can sit at the sewing desk and be facing the table from my chair at the sewing desk and make this easier. So I have this iron on a cotton setting, and I have my little miniature or mini ironing board. I'm going to say miniature. Miniature is about like that. Kind of like what I bought this from the Hobby Lobby. I thought this was the most adorable thing, and the little foot thing actually moves, which I think is cool. Decor for your sewing area. Don't mind all my nerdy tech stuff up there, or my Halloween decor. So we will get into doing the draft. Like I said, I'm going to draft something and this fabric because one of my friends is expecting a little boy. Told you so. I don't know what I'm going to be having. I'm like, girl, you're having a boy. Sure enough, she's having a boy. So I figured I would draft something child size or something the child can grow into, since it would be probably a good idea just to do that, is to make something adjustable. Now you can do this for yourself as well. Make sure that one of your tools is always handy. Your measuring tape. I have several. This one's my favorite, and I have to say this one's my favorite because I grew up around the pink one and the yellow one, but I always, for some reason, you know what? I didn't realize that I matched my eye look. That's funny. Curse Cosmetics Fear Palette is what's on my eyes. So let's get on to finishing. I'm going to be ironing this fabric and then we'll get into drafting. So be right back. Okay, so speaking of, and I got the fabric ironed. It's right here. Just have it inside out for now. So for yourself, you want to make sure that you have a good measuring tape for your body. For the love of everything, for the people out there that do this and thinks it measures the same, the measuring tape for drafting things for carpentry work, that's not the same thing. Don't be ridiculous on that and pretend that shit's okay. Excuse my language. That is not okay. So, one thing you want to do, depending on how tall you are, like with me, to the knee is just underneath it is 39 inches. Now, if you want to go lower than that, do 40 to 41, depending on how much fabric you want to have to be able to do for your seaming, okay? Like the shirt. The fabric is from Fabric Mart Fabrics in Sinking Springs, Pennsylvania. Has a wide variety of fabrics. They always have a fabulous sale going on. And you can get fabrics like this for sometimes $1.99 a yard. Or you can find fabrics like this sometimes in their fashion fabric bundle, which I always call a mystery bundle because it's a mystery on what you will get. So I was lucky enough to have enough for this shirt and a skirt. And the other thing that you want to do, I like my collar to here. Always make sure, I used a unisex pattern for this, by the way, it's a new look. I took it in here because it was too far down. So you can also make your full bust adjustments as well. So when you are measuring your bust, I'm going to show you a little tricky. The first place you want to start is here, the top of your bust line. Mine is 45. Is that a 6? Yeah, 45. Let's get that back over there, shall we? So 45, and this is why I have grid paper. You'll thank me for that. Also, if you don't have the kind of grid paper that I have and you have some sort of wrapping paper with a grid on the inside, use it. Again, you can tuck it into your bra too. You can tuck it into your bra. Now, this, my friends, a lot of people just think here and here. No, no, no. You measure, that's 50, and then underneath your bust, just under your bust. Right here, which I don't even know what that was for me because that twisted. Let's not get twisted, huh? Let's untwist that. And that, my friends, for me, if this is untwisted, is 43. Okay, then you want to measure your waist, your hips, and you also, if you're doing a long sleeve shirt, you want to make sure that you measure your wrist. Make sure you do it at the right end of this because that can get a bit confusing if you don't. My wrist is 7 inches or 3.5 or 6.5. Good. Always measure. That's why I'm saying you can put this in your bra, like where you want it, and measure down. Okay, you're going to measure down to the cuff. Since that did some weird thing, mine is 21.5. Okay, so when you are done doing that, excuse me, I have to sit for a moment. Then you can take your grid paper like this and count these. These are 1 inch per square. That's what makes grid paper really good. It is 1 inch per square. So when you're doing your drafting on your paper for yourself, don't forget to write your measurements. You're supposed to be over here, not looking over there. Anyway, so now I will turn this around and I'm going to show you something that I'm going to make child size and then we'll cut it out of that fabric. This video, you'll have to excuse, will be a little longer than usual, which means I need to grab me a bottle of water while we take a break. Be right back with that. Okay, now that I've had a drink of water, make sure that you are always hydrated. It helps you during your day. That's why I don't look my age. So, when you go to drop the pattern, like I said, it goes by your measurement. You'll have to excuse this. Once upon a time, this was folded nice and flat, and then I decided to move things around in my room and change a few things, and now it's crinkled. So, you need a good pair of scissors, and if you want to know, this is like a fusible webbing interfacing. If you iron it, it's going to stick to your iron. Don't let it stick to your iron. This is why if you cut it a certain way, also make sure that you have drafting tools. You can do erasable markers and pen. You do erasable chalks or wash away chalks. I do have a tailor's chalk around here. Where'd my tailor's chalk pencil go? Isn't that lovely? Anyway, whatever. It's around here somewhere. If I just tell the spoopies, put it back. Eventually, it shows back up. Because it's blue and it's kind of hard to miss in my room. So I always keep some sort of pencils or something. This is a really old pencil. If you have an old pencil that might show up, like, we'll do that over here. That might show up. This is a really good, old. So yes, just make sure you have your drafting tools for stuff like this. Like I said, it really helps out. Also, store your markers upside down. Just like you would liquid eyeliner. Store them upside down. And now on to the drafting part. Like I said, you can count the squares. And then when you do that, you have your pattern. So you want to make sure that your front and your back for a pattern, you can do it like half and then half. Now there is a way to actually draft that. Now I don't have one of those French rulers. I do not. Would never lie to you about that because let's keep it real. So if we are going to do this for an adult, you need a good size depending on the length of something that you want. Now, if you're doing this for a child or even a newborn, like what I will be making a garment for a newborn that's coming up, I think next year, you can take an existing pattern, memorize it. You memorize your patterns. And you want to make sure that the ending pieces here, right? Let's bring you back out. Your ending pieces here, that is 2 inches. You can also draft it so you have that as your 2-inch seam allowance. Let's see which one's going to work better today. And you can also mark seam SA, seam allowance. Oh, you can see that. Not very good, but you can see it. If an ink pen don't work and you got a good marker. Okay, good. Well, the marker works better for spelling things. Okay. We've got our 2-inch seam allowance marked here, right? So now what you're going to do is you're going to figure out what design do you want for a child. Remember, a child's armhole is different than our armhole. Also, if you have a good metal ruler, you can get these on Amazon. I was just so lucky to get mine with some leather working tools, and also a pair of scissors. And I think I have another one that's for, okay, I want to do it that length. Also, remember whatever length you're going to be working at when you're drafting. Like I said, this video is going to be longer. And for those of you that can't handle a long video, sorry, but you know, when people wonder about how to do something, I'm going to show them. I'm going to show those people how to draft something. Now, you can take this, because an armhole for a child should not be very long. Get that off, like, I got this here. I'm trying not to have what I need to mark too close to that. So, hold on. Now, we need our light behind us. So, we are right here, right? So, when you're here, that I will bring you in a bit. Okay. We are right here, and try not to punch this through. Right there where like the thing is. Okay, now the reason I have it this far is because what you're going to do actually is you're going to put this here. That's where you're going to start your collar. Your armhole is different. Okay, your armhole is significantly different than your neckline. So when you draft your armhole, your sleeve hole, you want to, and I only have this right here as reference to where you might want to start, because again, you need to leave yourself what? Seam allowance. So you can take from middle. Now, I'm going to start turning this. You're going to turn it. Now, the only other way that you can do this, it's like a smoother thing, is clone your clothes. I'll see if I can find that video and have that one help you with cloning your clothes. We'll take that to about right there before the seam allowance. Remember that. This right here is our 2-inch seam allowance right here. And you can see that better now. So what you want to do before your seam allowance is kind of turn that. You want to turn it. You can have it squared off right there. But I'm going to show you your matching darts here. Not darts, your matching points right here. If you want to draft that into your pattern, should be right here at the shoulder. Don't make it too close to your neck, okay? So, when we go to do the neck, I'm just checking and making sure that you can see this. You don't want that to come up and choke the child. You want to make sure that you also have a seam allowance, okay? That's why even if we wanted to on this side, we could just go ahead and go out there. That's fine because we have our seam allowance. Go ahead. I might be running out of ink in this. Let's see. It's probably just because I'm using this. So now you want to also make sure that when you're doing this, that you are able to bring it center front, right? Center front would be right about here. That's where center front is right here. You don't necessarily need a ruler to do this part. It does help so that you can just keep your lines straight for drafting. I grabbed this one My bigger one was next to it, but I'm like, do I really want to drag that one out? Now, this you can do. This is like drafting, just like drafting a commercial pattern. You also, again, you give yourself a seam allowance on this. So that's your center front. What you want to do, bring that out here. And on this seam allowance, now you're not going to do a 2-inch seam allowance on this part. You're going to do a 1/2 inch to a 1/4 inch seam allowance on this part. You want to make sure it matches up with what you're currently doing here. Bring that down. Now basically this is front, and this is why I'm also showing you this part right here, right? So we're going to move that. Remember where that is. Bring that down to here. That's why I'm saying this is just like drafting a commercial pattern. I had it in that little niche. Make sure you don't have it in that little niche. All right, so you want to make sure that this is marked. Center front. Now I'm going to mark this center front. They don't necessarily mark the center front. Now this is the part, obviously, this is your sleeve hole. This is your center front. There's a reason for that. So that when you go to cut this piece, center back. Now I will tell you, on some patterns you can mark a back piece to also being a front piece. I will not lie to you about that. I have done that for Rob for a tank top. Basically what you do with that is what's here is a little taller. It's a little taller and it looks shorter in the back. And why is that? The reason that you do that is because your back is exactly longer than your front, because you have more, by physiology, human physics, your back is bigger than your front. So make sure you have all that like that. Make sure that you have this fully drafted down all the way. I know I probably should have just grabbed the longer one, but whatever works for now. And make sure that your pen don't run out of ink, because that's helpful. So I'm just gonna grab that other ruler real quick. That's the big one, you can tell. So just put that over here. And that's that part. Like I said, if you think this video is too long, I am here to teach how to do this. Now, my new subscriber came over to my channel from Instagram. There are a lot of people over on Instagram that love Singer. They love all sorts of patterns. A lot of people just love to learn. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can never learn enough. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter how old you are. There's a lot of things in life to learn. Okay, so you see how I did that to leave that seam allowance. Now, I'm leaving that much seam allowance because this means when I go to make the pattern, I can reference from that. I'm going to go ahead and put these scissors over here. By the way, these scissors are also Singer. The little red thing popped off, but yeah, it says it right here. I know y'all can't see it, but it literally says Singer on the scissors. Okay, like I said, the back is bigger than the front. Now, babies sometimes have a sway back when they're born because, you know, they're cute, cuddly, and they bend in weird ways. So just don't bend your babies in weird ways. Like I said, right here is a 1/2 inch to a 1/4 inch seam allowance. What you're going to do is you're going to make sure that you don't draft these too close to each other, which is why I keep trying to mark this a little darker. Just a little darker, that's all. So we have the neckline right here. If you want to know, if you want it at a curve, you can do it right up here. When you're designing a piece, your back neckline is higher than your front neckline. So you need to obviously mark that when you go to do the back. Now, what you can do with the collar on the back is you can go ahead and just drop the collar a bit. So you're more like right here where I just like drew that line to drop the collar just a smidge. Also, doing that on this piece, when you're drafting, helps you to realize where you need to keep your line. Look, if you have some extra crystals or just stuff sitting around that you use in your sewing room, use it to weigh down your fabric or whatever, so that right here is your back neckline. Your back shoulder line will come to here. Your back neckline is a little bit higher up, like I said, than your front. Also, what you can do with this is you can bring that a little further up, because honestly you need to. Oh, also let's count 1, 2, 3 and a half. 1, 2, 3 and a half. So trying to make it so that I'm not holding that down too much, being in your way, being in the way of the camera. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and I left it there for a reason. You're going to mark that. 2, 3, and you're going to mark that. Now, like I said, this is going to be a long video. Your new neckline, right? So when you're doing this, you also want to make sure that you know where your line is for your armhole. Try to bring that across as smoothly as possible and draft it. Oh, I need to bring you over here a bit. Yeah, you need to draft that right there. Might as well just pull it in. Draft it right here. That's your mark for that. Because like I said, this is going to be a little further up. And then you have your points to where this should meet on the back. And you don't necessarily have to put those in, by the way. Don't forget that. Now, this is something that's super, super important when you're drafting your armhole, is that you make sure that that matches. Because if that's not going to match, there's going to be an issue. Okay, so and a half. So this goes out this way and down. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and a quarter. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that's okay. Because remember, I have seam allowance and seam allowance. So again, you have your 2-inch seam allowance, or you can do 1.5, you could do a half, that's totally up to you. You just want to make sure that this matches. Now, when you do this, don't forget you can actually snip on your curves as you go around. Now, personally, myself, I've never had an issue with it. So, the neckline, right? That neckline needs to match the back half of it needs to start here because you're bringing that up. This is your seam allowance. Okay. I don't know why that looks further down. Probably because I distracted that part with the boo-boo. With the boo-boo. Yeah, there you go. No, that seems to be right there. So, this right here will be your center back. I know it's confusing to a lot of people, but like I said, you can take a back piece and make it a front piece. So let's say if you take this and you make this both front and back, you can do that. So let me show you how to do that real quick after we make a few other marks. Honestly, on the back, I'm going to be honest with you on this. On the back, make a 1-inch seam allowance. Okay, just make you a 1-inch seam allowance, and on here, you're going to do that 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I ran out of ink. What do you know? Marker? Marker, anyone? I gotta find it again. Blah. Your 1/4 inch seam allowance. Drafted by whatever the heck I can get. Oh, are you kidding me? My marker's running out. I hang these things upside down, so don't do that. Now, sometimes I even design my own regalia because I like to do that. So, because this video is going to unfortunately be long. Joy, I think I took after you, girl. My friend Joy, I will list her. She's another great person to learn off of. Here's a little trick for you if you want to go ahead and get that and you don't have like the thing with the notches in it, but you have a table that folds and you're using it for something like this. Like I said, this is a reproduction table, but I will not use my rotary cutter on it. By the way, sometimes you could use both your both pieces of pattern to just go ahead and cut both pieces, and whatever works for you, whatever fits you better. Okay, whatever you're more comfortable with. Now, the only thing I didn't do on this is really like give it a seam allowance around the collar. You can go ahead and do that, and you can give yourself a seam allowance right here. Okay, you can just go ahead and give yourself a seam allowance. Now, go ahead and just turn that, not lose our stuff in the meantime. So I'm going to finish cutting this out and then we will be back. Only said we were going to cut this part out and we'd be right back. And we are. Now this is what I mean. Okay. This matches with that, quite frankly. It matches. So that will match. And then when it does, bring it like this. Just the other way you can also draft this. I said make the back bigger than the front. You need to do that because that is how you make sure that you have the pieces cut correctly. Now we women, we are all, well, men are all different shapes too. Let's not leave them out. Men are different shapes. Some are tall, some are short, some are, you know, fluffy like we are. If you're a fluffy gal like myself. But I'm not going to lie, I'm big. I am a big woman. Now, like I said, I was going to cut that out. And then we would come back and here we are now. This might help you understand the neckline and drafting that back one because you want to be able to, why does this not want to work today? If you want to make that neckline at a curve, take it at a curve like that. If you want to do that. Now, if you don't want to do that and you just want to go ahead and just cut across, besides it kind of helps me get this out of the way, you go ahead and you do that. Here's your pattern. Here's your front. Here's your back. And you have that choice right here where I did that with the marker, because thank goodness for that marker. And you saw, just without having to take this on here, how close I came to where I marked. Yes. Now, what I didn't show you is how to draft a sleeve. We can do that in another one, but this is the front and the back. I think that matches pretty good. So, again, your center front. Or your center front, your center back. Center back. It does not stand for crazy boot. Yeah. No, it stands for center front and center back. Okay. I sometimes just like to be a little silly and some people don't like it and yada yada, but you know what, if you cannot let yourself be cheerful, I don't know what's wrong with you. So that's those pieces. The other thing that you can do is draft a pocket if you think that the child's going to be old enough for that. Excuse me. Let me grab that fabric. Like I said, long video. Now, here's the other thing with fabric. Let me go ahead and move these out of the way. The fabric, right? Make sure that you have enough of it so that when you go to place your pattern pieces, you know that those will fit. Now, the other way to do that is take it this way. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this in half. You're going to be like, oh, why? Now, I will show you why in a moment. Now, this could be more like a vest piece. You can invest in that. And make sure that your ends here, look, this is your selvage. This is Cumberland Valley Collections, Sarah Morgan, Blue Hill fabric. You know what? Look, you guys, there's a website on there, bluehillfabrics.com. Well, let's write that down real quick. It's one of my books. Try to keep a book handy. bluehillfabrics.com. Oh, let's just take this little piece right here and write on it real quick before we do this. bluehillfabrics.com. Let's see. B-L-U-E Blue Hill Fabrics. I'm going to look that up and see if they're still in business. Holy jeez. Holy jeez. Anyway, I didn't realize that was, wow. And it's a really nice fabric. I think it kind of looks like dominoes. I think that's what it is. Some kind of dominoes pattern in there that looks like a weave. But, so now we just want to match up the ends. Yes, I do know one is wider than the other. I am aware of that, but let's just do this part where we can literally match that up and then cut along. And I've seen a lot of people take fabric like this and just like clip it at one end and just shred it. Oh, I hate that. Don't do that. That's a waste. And half the time it doesn't even work. I tried it once and I was like, nah, I think I'll just stick to my old way of doing this. Now, if you have really good scissors, like these, like these Singer ones. Now, I was lucky to actually find these at a grocery store. No joke. Like the end aisle where they have the thread and stuff. Yeah, you could do that. So, I'll put this piece over here. And we'll take this piece here. Now, I actually tuck the selvage in. I'm wondering if this... I don't know. I tuck the selvage in for a reason. It's because I don't like to waste fabric, period. Why is that all wrinkled? I did iron it. I ironed it. Now what I do, because I have to basically sit when I'm doing this, yep, there is your center front. Now, you will have a lot of extra fabric here. Don't worry about that. You just be happy that you have it for a good reason. Now, if you saw what I just did here, was I took it down to the selvage. I'll need a drink of water in a minute. Holy jeez. Holy cheese whiz. I don't even eat that stuff. Also, you can take your ruler, and that helps to hold it down. Like I said, center front. Your seam allowances is where you can do that right here, okay? You're going to give this a little bit of a bigger seam allowance. I have always loved to teach. Like I was telling my friend Rob, you know, anybody remember those ads where they say, here, draw the bear, draw the turtle, draw this person? Oh, y'all, like I did that when I lived in Texas one year. That was in the 90s. The company literally responded, showed up and said I was already a master artist and should be teaching. And I'm like, well, can I teach without the license? They're like, no, you'd have to take the class for it. And I'm like, well, then would you let me take the class? And they said, no, because you're already a master artist. I'm like, well, then what's the point? They're like, well, it's basically for people with a lower skill level. Like, wow. A lower skill level. Try to keep your fabric straight because it helps. Also, when you get to this point, kind of bringing it a slight curve to go with it, because that goes with the sleeve hole. Now we have this whole piece of fabric to just put aside. And now you can make this a pullover or you can make this open. This is your choice at this point. Let me show you. Let me show you a little trick on how I mark back from front. All right. Back is blue. Front is whatever color you grab. Okay. So when you take your pattern piece off and you have that marked with either a sewing pin. See how this is? See how this is right here? This could be split in the front. And that is center front jacket. Did I grab center front? Yes, I did. Center front jacket. Okay. Now the thing I said that I do with this, I'll show you right here. And I think that we are going to like cut this video and then we'll come back to another one on this to show you what I will be finishing up on this. So like I said, you know, we take this. I think I will go ahead and make a jacket out of this, or a little vest piece. Most of the time what I do with fabric like this is I make stuffed animals out of them. So when you do this, you can either hold it like I do, because I'm just so used to doing this, I can do that. You can iron this before you clip it down. It got too gosh darn hot for me to have the iron still on. So basically, it'll look clean like this when you have it like that, okay? And then on the inside, this is why I say I literally tuck that in so you're not losing fabric. Does that make sense? You're not losing fabric. So before we actually finish up here, I cut this just slightly on the curve so that right here, you might be able to see that a little better. That is slightly cut on the curve. This is the back. And then I brought this up a little bit more at the ending of it here, right here. Yeah, you can't even see that. That's weird to have it in the same area. So I have it up a little extra here because the bottom of it, unlike the front of it, on the other part, just is whiter on that than for the selvage. So that's why I did that part for it, if that makes some sort of sense to you. Anyway, you need to know these things if you want to know how to draft your pattern and then go ahead and take. Because we didn't really do too much of a seam allowance for the armhole. We did a little bit, but not a lot. Well, goodness. Is the fabric on there? I'm not sure about that. Nope, it didn't catch both pieces. Well, how about that? Oh, goodness, goodness. Okay, so we'll just take this and snip this way. Just a little bit, because I don't know what's going on with this. Now, sometimes this can happen where if you're cutting it towards you, and I know I should probably just go ahead and turn it, that way it's not hard on myself. If you are a person with disabilities, physical disabilities, do not think that you cannot have a hobby like this. Oh, yes, you can. If you're in a wheelchair, I was in one for 5 years, and I know eventually I'll be back in one. Do not think that you cannot sew. Again, fabric scrap. Yes, you can. Don't doubt yourself. Yes, you can. So, even though this was the center front piece, I wanted to make sure that I drafted that perfectly to the other piece, or as close as possible to the other piece for you to see. That's drafted to it. Look at that. It's a little bit difference, but this is going to be where the seam allowance is for the armhole. So anyway, I'll see you when we go to put it in. This is the back, so I won't cut it up this way. I hope today's video helped you out with like drafting. Like I said, your measurements are super important. Don't forget to do that. And make sure that when you're making something for somebody else, that they give you their accurate measurements, or if they're near you, you take their measurements so nobody BS's you. Trust me, trust and believe. I've had too many people give me BS measurements, and they griped later that something didn't fit them, but that was their fault for wasting my time and my materials that cost me money and cost me money to ship it to them, and did not charge that person a dime for sewing something for them. So when you sew for other people, make sure that they are going to be legitimate in what they want. And if they're not, tell them, I'm not sorry to say this. And don't say sorry to people. Say, I am not sorry to say this, but if you're not going to give me your accurate measurements, I am not going to sew for you, because it is a waste of my time and my materials and my money. And do not feel sorry for standing your ground on that. And stay happy, stay healthy, stay positive, and as always, stay blessed. Yes, I do have nails on. And I will see you in the next one, because that will actually be finishing that up. Won't that be great? Because you never know. Bye.